At last, we finally got a capitulation wick for Bitcoin. Just 2 days ago, we dropped down to $80,000. However, at the time of recording this video, we are back above 86K going into the weekly close. In today's video, we'll be discussing exactly what could be happening next in this market as we try to go ahead and form this bottom. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. First and foremost, if you've been watching me for a while, you know that I've been very vocal about trying to catch this bottom. Now, if you're not a seasoned trader, I don't recommend that you do what I've been doing. However, when we had that massive capitulation wick for Bitcoin, which you can see here on the 1 hour time frame, if we go back to Friday, we absolutely nuked, and then we nuked again, confirming this a little bit as a local low. Now, when I saw this, I jumped at the occasion, and of course, I went ahead and entered a Bitcoin long. Now, this was one of my bigger trades that I've shown in a while in my premium group, and you can see that right now we're sitting just above 150K in unrealized profits, but I did go ahead and secure some profits right around 40K. My stop loss is now at break even. The reason why I did this and already secured some profits is because no one has a crystal ball in this market. I just look for the best risk to reward opportunities, and a massive capitulation wick like we saw on Friday when the bottoming signs were near, which we'll go over in today's video, was an excellent opportunity. Now, I shared this trade in my premium group. If that interests you, you do have the first link in my description down below. All you have to do is DM me the word premium on Telegram, and I'd be happy to onboard you into my free premium group. The only requirement is that you sign up with one of my affiliate exchange links here and you start trading as you normally would. Now, of course, you have to understand that there's a big disclaimer in the descriptions down below. I am not a financial advisor. Nothing that I discuss on the channel should be construed as financial advice. I am essentially just a guy trading cryptocurrencies and sharing my analysis every single day. Now, the point of these trades is actually not to go ahead and accumulate more US dollars. I want more Bitcoin. Now, to be perfectly clear, I am preparing for a bear market. Any capital that I make here will be heavily allocated into Bitcoin once we get near those bear market bottoms. At this point in time, this is starting to look relatively positive on the shorter time frames. I cannot ignore that, and naturally, that's why I went ahead and entered that trade. However, there is a chance that we go ahead and revisit those lows to really form out that bottom. No one has a crystal ball, and usually when we form these kinds of bottoms like we've seen previously, it's not just one massive capitulation wick down and then we resume straight up. We tend to chop around that zone for quite some time. Now, in my most recent trade, I likely won't be touching it until we hit at the bare minimum $88,000, or I go ahead and get stopped out at break even. Now, some of you have been making fun of me for trying to catch this knife, but we are net profitable on trying to do so. So at this point in time, because I went in much heavier than my previous trade where I lost out on $25,000, which I shared in my previous video, right now you can see that I'm already securing that 40K. And so I'm very pleased with this position, but I'd like to hold it out just in case we can go ahead and move higher from here. Now, if we do get strong bullish momentum, we would have to go ahead at the bare minimum on the shorter time frames, reclaim $88,000. If we can reclaim 88K, then at that point in time, I do think we already start talking about targeting that yearly open. That's the beauty with entering these high risk to reward setups. If this is the bottom, I will be more than happy, and this will likely be one of my most profitable trades to date. Now, taking a look at the liquidation heat map, because we need to discuss this and all of the factors that could be signaling that we're getting a little bit of a local bottom here. First and foremost, there is still way more liquidity to the upside. I would be absolutely shocked, to repeat myself, if Bitcoin doesn't find its way up towards this region sooner rather than later before confirming lower, because yes, on the weekly time frame, you can see that we did confirm below that 50-week simple moving average, and this is going to be the second week in a row. We're below that level, we're below my 98K weekly invalidation level, and so I'm calling it here, yes, the bear market has commenced. That being said, it doesn't mean that you can't make money in this kind of market. Bounces can be quite significant, and if we are to get a bounce from around this zone, which you can see this blue line is the 100-week simple moving average, it would likely bring us all the way back above $100,000. And if that's the case, that's the area where I will likely be offloading some of my Bitcoin that I accumulated in the bear market. That's how I will be playing it. Now, to be perfectly clear, I will not be selling all all of my Bitcoin because I got some very, very nice entries sub $30,000. I will simply be accumulating more as we head into that bear market, and I will share it with you on the channel. But if you want extra daily insights as to how my trades are playing out, what are my new positions before I go ahead and talk about them on the YouTube channel, along with my spot buys as we do head into that bear market, remember you do have that first link in the description down below. It brings you directly to my premium group. This is where I share all of my own personal setups. Now, understand as well that we do have a couple more longs that have started to pile in. Same story over and over again. Now, usually bottoms are marked by large capitulation events. This is exactly what we got on Friday. We kept on dumping from around $85,000 all the way down to 80K, basically in one go. So, if we can start chopping around this zone, I would be more convinced in saying that yes, guys, the bottom is confirmed. Now, this is from a spot perspective. As I said, I will be offloading some of my spot should we get a relief rally, perhaps up to this bull market support band, which finds us above $100,000. Yes, I do believe this is the case because even in bear markets, we get those relief rallies where you can offload some of your positions. That's how I will be playing it. Now, if you've been watching me for a while, you know that I'm only really allocated into Bitcoin and Ethereum, and so it would only be on that kind of relief rally that I would consider offloading some of my spot positions. Now, I also want to discuss the ETFs because you can see that on Friday, despite the fact that we had that massive capitulation event, we got around 238 million worth of inflows. BlackRock were the ones selling. The rest of the ETFs were either flat or buying. Now, is this a sign of a reversal? The thing we need to consider here is that we have been seeing time and time again before the New York session opens during the week, we get big deposits onto Coinbase Prime. Now, those Bitcoin deposits end up getting sold and naturally the market continues to dump. We've also been seeing Binance selling tons of Bitcoin. Now, of course, this is Binance's customers, but there is a massive whale or a few massive whales there that just continue to keep on dumping their Bitcoin onto the market. Are we finally going to get relief this week? Because there's also been a lot of rumors about what's going to happen with Sailor and MicroStrategy, seeing as they're currently only 15% up on all of their Bitcoin buys. They're up around $7.5 billion, but they were up far more. So, are these guys going to go belly up? The thing that you need to consider here is that JP Morgan dumped 25% of their MicroStrategy position right before the MSCI announced that Bitcoin companies can't enter major index. Now, a lot of people are talking about how this could be FUD. In my opinion, and I do agree with this analysis, there really is nothing to see here. It's another perfectly timed institutional trade. They give the announcement, but they've already sold. The game is rigged, but Bitcoin doesn't care about their indexes. And I read somewhere talking about how Sailor will be going belly up if Bitcoin goes below his average price. But remember, in the previous bear market, he was actually operating at a loss and he just continued to accumulate Bitcoin until the next bull market. This guy likely won't be in a position where he has to sell any of his Bitcoin. And if you know him, you know how he feels about Bitcoin and holding for the extreme long term. Now, something else that was interesting amidst all of this selling, if you want to talk about conspiracies, look at October 7th, where we saw over 2 billion in ETF inflow volume, which was the second largest day ever. 72 hours later, we saw the largest crypto liquidation event, namely October 10th. Either large inflows mark local tops or this was an intentional trap. Now, over the course of the weeks after October 10th, we just saw continuous selling. Right now, we are getting towards the end of November already. In my opinion, it is highly unlikely that Bitcoin just continues to go straight down, and I will be trading this market actively. Long or short, we can make money in this market. Now, I also wanted to show you this because if you do invert the Bitcoin chart, it becomes pretty clear that this parabolic move is getting limited. Now, you can see this is just going to the downside. However, we do look toppy in this scenario. And so, in my opinion, there is no guarantee that we can confirm that, yes, this was the absolute bottom. All we can do as traders is take the highest risk to reward opportunities, and I firmly believe that this was one of them. Now, if Bitcoin just continues to rip higher, naturally, I will be extremely happy with my profits on this trade. By the way, if you want to trade the crypto market, you do have all of the links in the description down below. My go-to exchange is actually Bluffin, which is the second link in my description down below. Reminder, they do have a massive trading bonus cashback where you can earn up to $3,000 completely for free, limited to the first 50 users, of course. So go ahead and sign up. You have that second link in the description down below if trading crypto interests you. Now, what were some of the bottoming signs here? First and foremost, we got a negative 10,000 delta in a 3-minute period on Binance futures. Extremely encouraging. The reason why this kind of capitulation often signals that the bottom is indeed close to being in, if not already in. We also have the fact that the positive depth delta on Binance Spot has increased since this previous post. The reason I bring this up by exit pump is because we talked about it on the channel previously, where we started to see the tides turn, and the tides have continued to turn here with positive depth delta on Binance Spot. And just a quick note, with Bitcoin currently sitting above $86,000 as I'm recording this video, we need to consider that there is indeed a CME gap right around $85,250. Highly likely to be filled. They always get filled. And just to quickly touch on what we discussed in my previous video, Bitcoin is indeed the most oversold it's been in over 2 years. Now, does this mean you should just be buying a shit ton of Bitcoin? In my opinion, no, because I do think that as the bear market confirms, we go ahead and move lower from here. That being said, from a trading perspective, I am of the opinion that a relief rally will come sooner rather than later as Bitcoin tries to go ahead and confirm a bottom from around these levels. If we zoom out here on the weekly time frame, something you also need to consider is that this is a huge demand zone. Now, granted, this demand zone goes all the way down to around $74,000, which just so happens to touch on that capitulation wick that we set with that whole tariff nonsense. But now you can see that we're back at this level, and typically we would be seeing a good reaction from around this zone as the bottom tries to form before we go ahead and get that relief rally. If you're not a trader, it's probably best to just sit on your hands and let the price action play out. I do think we will be getting better opportunities to accumulate Bitcoin at lower levels, but they may not come in the immediate short term. And one last thing to bring up before we get close to wrapping up this video, the Bitcoin realized losses have jumped to levels last seen during the FTX collapse, driven primarily by short-term holders selling. This is a fact. These are all the capitulation signs, and the local bottom is trying to be formed from around this zone, in my opinion. Now, can we move lower? Of course, there's a possibility. And as a matter of fact, as I shared with you earlier in the video, my stop loss is at break even after securing some profits on this trade, because no one has a crystal ball in this market. I also wanted to touch on the fact that we are likely going to get rate cuts in December. Previously, the odds were lower than 50%, and right now you can see that there's a 71% chance that we do get a little bit of easing here. And so traders have started to price this in. We're seeing some short-term relief after that capitulation low. And the last thing I wanted to touch on is Bitcoin dominance is approaching a very key level that we would hope to get rejected from if we are going to get a relief rally. And that is right around that 6.76%. You can see that we previously topped out here before moving lower and getting positive price action for Bitcoin and the rest of the crypto market. And so if Bitcoin dominance does reject from around this level, it's going to be bullish for crypto in the short term, that is. Now, my weekly invalidation level, you can see that we are indeed below $98,000. At the time of sending out this video, there's still going to be around 12 hours until the weekly close, but I would find it hard to believe that we're just going to rally $12,000 in those hours on a weekend. It's not going to happen. So this is the confirmation. I will be selling some spot as we do go ahead and move higher, and I will continue to actively trade the market to make as much money as possible so I can go ahead and accumulate Bitcoin near the bear market bottoms. Now, let's also touch on quickly that on Friday, we saw the highest volume traded on IBIT. Binance Coinbase volume higher than the 10-10 liquidation event and higher since February. A lot of hands changed yesterday, which was on Friday. Finally, there was a buyer of this never-ending sell-off. Charts do still look ugly, and I will admit that, but this is the first positive we've been seeing. We have a long way to go, but usually you want bottoms to be high volume, selling climax, that capitulation wick that we've been discussing. Now keep an eye on the market structure break to the bullish side, first on the lower time frame and then up. And that's exactly what we saw after that capitulation event, and that's exactly why I went ahead and entered a Bitcoin long, because it was a great risk to reward opportunity shared in my group. The last thing I wanted to show you here, I'm still in my Bitcoin dominance long here because I simply think that it's highly risky to go aggressively long into altcoins. I know I've been telling you that it seems like altcoins are starting to outperform Bitcoin here and there, but the thing is, my P&L just keeps on increasing from this Bitcoin long simply because the market overall can't cope with this kind of price action. Now, I will tell you something. If Bitcoin does go ahead and reclaim, for example, the yearly open right around $93,000, and we do make that move, that relief rally move up to $100,000, that would be a period where I think altcoins can outperform. I wouldn't be bag holding them, but I would be looking for some very, very good altcoin trades to make the most of that upside potential. For now, though, I still think that with this relatively shaky price action, it's hard for me to close that Bitcoin dominance long simply because we got such a good entry. Already secured some profits. My stop loss is at break even, so I have no risk of losing any capital here. But the thing is, we want to see Bitcoin continue and show some strength, and altcoins will likely move up from there. That is, of course, my opinion, not financial advice. Nothing that I discuss on this channel should be construed as financial advice. And that sums up today's video. The bottoming signs are here, but it can take time to establish these kinds of bottoms, as we've seen time and time again for Bitcoin. We currently are holding the 100-week simple moving average as support, and I would like to see Bitcoin hold on to that level to talk about a potential relief rally up to around $100,000. On that relief rally is likely when I will be selling some of my spot Bitcoin. However, to be perfectly clear with you, I will not be selling all of my Bitcoin because of the great entries that we got at the previous bear markets. Now, if you're subscribed to the channel, you will be first to know exactly when I go ahead and redeploy into Bitcoin into this upcoming bear market. I do think there's going to be some great trading opportunities, but right now from a spot positioning, that is my game plan. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. I have my bluff and leverage trading tutorial right here, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video.